are going through, but the reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us exactly the way that we were meant to be. And so back to this dua, why I find this so important is because the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, based on what we're hearing today, would have been neurodivergent. He had a speech impediment. And in the Qur'an, he makes this dua. He's supplicating to Allah and he's saying, Rabbi shrah li sadri, oh Allah, expand my chest. Wa yassir li amri, and make my task easy for me. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, and untie the knot in my tongue so that they may understand me. Those of us that are neurodivergent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built into the Qur'an, into the system of our faith, the tools that we need to be able to process our unique experience and not just move through the world as if we have a problem, but that Allah has tailored a solution for us specifically. Another dua of Musa alayhi salam, he says, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. One of the problems that those of us that are neurodivergent face is a deep sense of shame because we feel that we are not able to meet to the expectations that Allah and the Prophet ﷺ have given us. Praying 5 times a day alone can be a challenge for people. Or we talk about the repetitive and consistent nature of some of the aspects of Islam, and it's that repetitive nature that is difficult for some of us. That doing things with consistency is difficult. And so Allah teaches us through Sayyidina Musa, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbunallah, meaning that surely Allah is sufficient for us, right? And that He is the best of planners, right? So that whatever our current situation is right now, that this came directly from Allah. Like, we're not weird, we're not different, Allah made us unique, just like He made every single one of us unique. And we may be able to collect ourselves into groups where we identify those similarities with one another, but that at our core, we are different. And I think sometimes the conversation that we have from a clinical perspective and from a therapeutic perspective, alhamdulillah, we're blessed to have Muslim therapists in this room. Alhamdulillah for the gift of Islam, because I have known many Muslims that have gone to therapy, and the result of that is our sisters taking off their hijab, our brothers going off and trying different modes of healing that are not befitting to the soul, based on the modern sense of what therapy looks like right now. And so to not be anchored in an Islamic tradition becomes dangerous at times. And so this is another consideration, that when we're thinking about seeking help, the help isn't the problem. It's where do we go seek that help to ensure that when I go into this space, I'm safe from the modern conversation that is trying to separate me from God. So how do I internalize these challenges, but also these gifts that Allah has given me? It may be difficult for me to stand during Taraweeh, right? 20 rak'ahs. I got ADHD, that's not for me. I 4 rak'ahs in, I'm like, all right, alhamdulillah, I'm hoping that one counted, all right? But Allah has given us other things that we can do, some of the more meditative practices like dhikr and whatnot that allow us to sit in isolation with ourselves, that we can contemplate Allah and our place in the world. Allah has given us these gifts. And so I think my contribution to this conversation is really, how do we as Muslims start to really change the framework of how we experience the world, not through the lenses that have been given to us, whether that be through science or whatever the case may be. Not that there's no value in those things. Again, I need to know that this thing is called ADHD so that I can tell other people this is the experience that I'm having. It helps put into words something that I can understand. But I don't want to move through the world feeling debilitated. I want to move through the world feeling chosen by Allah to do a particular task that the way He created me allows me to do, right? So tapping into our sense of self, our sense of mission, who we are, where we're going, helps us understand these unique traits that we have, because that's what uniquely qualifies us to do what we do. Not because someone gave me a degree, not because someone told me that I could or couldn't do something, but because Allah created me with a mission and He gave me the tools on how to accomplish that mission. For me, that looks like when I'm really focused on something, I'm really focused. Like, you can ask my wife, mashallah, she knows exactly how my ADHD presents, and all the good and all the bad, right? Because I'm in the middle of doing something and she said, babe, I need help in the kitchen. I don't even hear her, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, people with ADHD or neurodivergence hear maybe 30% of what's coming at them. Let alone in today's world where you have multiple sources of noise and visuals coming your way. And in a regular conversation, I'm only hearing 30%, let alone whatever other distractions are there. And so sometimes my wife needs to tell me, hey, maybe you need to go drop 2 rakahs real quick, all right? Just recenter yourself, you know what I mean? Let's put a pause on this conversation because things are getting away from us, right? So it's understanding the person that you're dealing with and understanding the tools that modern science and therapists like us have given us to help navigate these things, but I think also understanding the perspective of our religion on these things. Islam in Philadelphia historically has been taught from a place of understanding the rules and understanding the consequences of not doing those rules, right? When you heard me make this dua, Rabbi shrah li sadri, you thought I was gonna give a khutbah. When the reality is that this is a dua that was injected into the formula of the khutbah, but in reality was a conversation between Sayyidina Musa and Allah on how to deal with his speech impediment, because Allah made him a prophet. How did Allah respond to that dua? Does anyone know? Did he remove Sayyidina Musa's speech impediment? No, he didn't. What did he do? He gave him his brother Harun. He made his brother a prophet. Allah created us with these things, not so that we can make dua and just pray it away. No, the Prophet made a dua and Allah answered it with aid, with help from somebody that was of him. Right, so alhamdulillah, we're a community of people that are like each other. And so us as neurodivergents making this supplication, Brother Qaiser and the Office of Muslim Engagement is answering that dua by giving us the support that we need, our metaphoric Harun, if you will. I'm also thought of a story of the Prophet ﷺ. He's in a room much like this in Musalla, and I'm just going to wrap it up with this because we're going to talk about children in the masjid, and I think this is so important. It's a city, 20, we're talking about all these number of Muslims, but many of us maybe don't know this story. And I think understanding the way we contextualize Islam becomes important. The Prophet ﷺ is with his Sahabas, he's with a group of people, and his grandson, Sayyidina Hassan and Sayyidina Hussein, come charging into the masjid in the middle of his halaqah, and they're jumping on the Prophet ﷺ, and they got something important that they need to tell him. There's a story that Sayyidina Hassan wants to tell him. And so the Prophet ﷺ, of course, like he does, which we don't see in our masjids today, he stops his lesson and he addresses his grandchildren. And Sayyidina Hassan starts rambling through this story very quickly, and one of the Sahabas to the Prophet's side says, subhanAllah, I feel bad for Sayyidina Hassan. Why? Sayyidina Hassan has a stutter. He has a speech impediment. So he's trying to work through this story, stuttering and stumbling along the way. And the Prophet ﷺ, he hears this comment on the side, and out of love for his grandchild and out of understanding the reality of our future, goes to the Sahabas and says, subhanAllah, my grandson reminds me so much of my beautiful grandfather, Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. The Prophet ﷺ completely changes the way we understand this challenge. He brings beauty to the problem. Sayyidina Hassan has a stutter. He struggled to get through his story, but the Prophet ﷺ made that stutter something beautiful and something honorific. That this isn't just any grandchild, this is somebody that resembles the Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And so when we're in our communities and we see children that are different than everyone else, we see individuals that are different, our job is to say, Alhamdulillah for this difference, because there's a gift in this person that I have not seen yet. And my supplication to Allah is that He makes this light aware to me and helps me understand how to help this person share that light with everybody else. That these are beautiful things that Allah have given us, and it's just a matter of how do we channel these gifts into what is the most appropriate form for each of us as individuals. Please forgive me. Everything good that I may have said has come from my teachers.